A few days ago, I came across an NDE by a Jewish man named Omri Bernstein, who also warned of major events in January 2026. I thought such nonsense would not happen, but the irony is that now I'm here with a similar NDE. What I'm about to share with you happened only 4 days ago, and my hands are still shaking as I tell this. My name is Marcus Thorne. Until November 24th, I was just a man focused on buildings and blueprints, but just living a busy life as a commercial architect in Chicago. I never believed in miracles, rarely thought about God, and definitely didn't think I'd ever be writing a warning to the entire world. But 4 days ago, what I thought was real completely broke apart in a way that my logical mind can't fix. This is not just a story. This is a specific alert about events that will start in January 2026 and change our world by the end of that first month. I was checking a construction site on an old high-rise downtown last Monday afternoon, November 24th. It was cold and very windy, typical weather in the Windy City, the kind of cold that chills you to the bone. I remember shouting to a foreman because of the loud wind rushing around the steel frame and the noise of the machines below. I stepped onto a temporary wooden platform and reached out to grab an exposed metal pole for balance. I didn't see the broken, live electrical wire hidden behind a tarp, frayed against the steel. The moment my hand touched the steel, time did not just stop, it disappeared. My whole world turned a blinding white. There was a sound like a huge crack, followed by a heavy feeling, like being squeezed through a tight tunnel. Then, a silence settled over me that was so complete it felt heavy. The site safety officer told me later that my heart stopped right away. I was dead for 8 minutes. No heartbeat, no brainwaves, just gone. But during those 8 minutes, I traveled further than I have in my whole 48 years on Earth. I found myself standing in a field that seemed to go on forever. The grass was not green, but silver, moving gently with no wind. Each blade looked like it was shining, like a fiber optic thread. The sky above was a deep, comforting twilight. It felt less like a time of day and more like a permanent, quiet, peaceful state of being. The air tasted clean and new, like fresh water mixed with ozone, filling lungs I didn't know I still had. I looked down at my hands. They looked clear, almost see-through, with a soft light coming from inside them. I felt weightless, making the heavy concrete of Chicago feel like a distant, bad dream. And then I saw him. I knew who he was immediately, even though I had spent my life arguing about whether he was real. Jesus walked toward me, not floating, but walking with his feet touching the ground. The silver grass he stepped on immediately sprang back up, untouched. He looked nothing like the sculptures or paintings I had seen. His skin was like shiny, warm bronze, and his eyes held a powerful kindness that instantly brought me to my knees. It wasn't just power I felt from him. It was deep understanding. It was like meeting the only person who knew exactly how I was made, the only one who understood the blueprints of my soul. When he spoke, his voice didn't just reach my ears. It vibrated in my chest, like the deepest string of a cello. "Marcus," he said, and hearing my name from him broke every wall I had built around my heart. "You have built tall structures of glass and stone to reach the sky, but today you stand before the one who created the heavens. You have measured the world's weight, but you have missed the greatest truth." I wanted to say sorry, to explain why I was doubtful, why my life was so busy, why I didn't care. But a wave of peace washed over me, showing me that I didn't need excuses, just to be present. He held out a hand, and as I stood up, the field around us began to shift, rippling like water when you drop a stone into it. "I have brought you here for a specific job," he continued, his face becoming serious, though still completely loving. "The earth is crying out, and the quiet time is ending. You will see signs that will happen before the end of January 2026. You must go back and tell everyone so they can stop building their lives on shifting sand and start building on the true rock." The silver field disappeared into mist, and we were suddenly standing on a high cliff looking over a massive, dark ocean. The air was cold, but the water felt alive and moving with a purpose I couldn't understand. The salt spray felt more real than any ocean spray I'd ever felt on a vacation. "Listen," Jesus said, pointing to the waves. "The first event will come from the deep. On January 7th, the oceans will sing." I watched as the vision showed a terrifying scene. Scientists on ships in the Atlantic and Pacific were running around decks, holding their headphones, their faces pale with shock. A sound was rising from the deep. Not a whale, not an earthquake, but a complex, beautiful song coming from the water itself. It made the ships shake. I saw a submarine crew deep underwater crying as the sound went right through the heavy metal of their vessel, a vibration of perfect harmony that made their tools jump and shake. The vision moved closer, showing a fisherman in a small boat off Indonesia. He stopped pulling his nets. He leaned over the side, his ear toward the water, tears falling down his rough face as the song rose up through the wood. I saw tourists on a beach in Brazil stop their games, standing still as the waves began to hum a low, deep chord that was louder than the city behind them. I saw a lighthouse keeper in Scotland staring down as the black water below began to give off a faint light that flashed in time with the sound. I saw a busy port in Shanghai where huge cranes stopped moving. The workers climbed out of their cabs, looking down at the water, stunned by the beautiful sound coming from the dirty bay. Even in New York Harbor, the boats slowed down, engines running low as passengers lined the railings, completely silent during the busy commute. It was a worship sound that no one could explain with science. Creation recognizes its creator, Jesus explained, watching the water lovingly. This sound will be recorded and played on all the news stations. It will confuse the experts, but it will make humble people cry with happiness. It is the earth crying out for me to return. As that scene ended, the vision changed, but we stayed near the water. I saw sea animals acting strangely. Huge groups of whales gathered near coasts, not getting stranded, but simply waiting, facing east. Their usual songs were silent as they listened to the greater ocean song. I saw schools of fish making perfect shapes like giant swirling galaxies, clear to see from the sky. Even the animals of the sea know the time, he whispered. Only people are still asleep. The scene changed completely to a dense forest. I saw ancient trees with deep roots. As I watched, a wind passed through them, but the leaves did not just rustle, they seemed to shine with light. I saw people walking in these woods, hikers, people camping, suddenly stopping, looking around as if someone they knew had called their name. I saw a hunter drop his gun, overcome by a sudden, intense feeling of holiness that filled the natural world. I saw a group of loggers turning off their chainsaws, taking off their safety hats, and looking up through the branches, filled with a sudden, overwhelming respect. I am breathing life into the wild places, Jesus said. People who look for silence in nature will hear my voice there before the cities even notice what is happening. Then, the place changed again, sharply. We were walking through the clean, bright hallways of a hospital. The smell of disinfectant was strong and biting. I saw people who looked lost, old patients with memory loss staring at walls, young people with severe sadness curled up in beds, their minds clouded by confusion. The second event, he said softly, is an act of kindness. From January 13th to January 17th, I will clear the fog. I watched as a wave of clear thinking moved through the building. I saw an old woman named Martha, I somehow knew her name, who had not recognized her daughter in 5 years. She suddenly sat up, her eyes bright and clear, the empty look replaced by instant recognition. She grabbed her daughter's hand and began talking not just about old memories, but about God's love, saying Bible verses she hadn't remembered since she was a child. The nurses stood in the doorway, dropping their clipboards, watching the impossible event. The vision went past the hospital. I saw a high-security prison where the noise of shouting usually never stopped. Suddenly, everything went silent. Prisoners who were controlled by anger and voices in their heads sat on their beds, holding their heads, crying as their minds became clear for the first time in many years. They were not planning, they were praying. I saw a homeless man under a bridge, usually lost to bad memories, suddenly stand up, fix his coat, and look at the sky with eyes that saw the world exactly as it was, free of all past pain. I saw a big meeting room where a CEO was about to sign a paper that would ruin thousands of people's lives for his own profit. He stopped, the pen held over the paper. The selfish greed in his mind instantly disappeared, and he looked at the contract with horror. He dropped the pen, stood up, and walked out, leaving his confused board members behind. I saw a married couple in a lawyer's office shouting in the middle of a divorce fight. They stopped right in the middle of a word, looking at each other. The anger left, and they suddenly remembered their promises and the love they had forgotten. They reached across the table, crying, the clear mind fixing their relationship right away. For 5 days, Jesus told me, I will lift the cover of confusion. Everyone will have the ability to choose clearly. People who were trapped in their own minds will be given a moment of perfect clarity to hear my call. Do not just say, this is a scientific accident. I saw this happening in homes too. I saw a man deep in alcohol trouble, a bottle in his hand, suddenly freeze. The craving vanished, replaced by a moment of complete, sober understanding where he saw his life, his choices, and the chance for a new start. He poured the bottle down the sink, his hands steady for the first time in years. I saw a young person staring at a phone, lost in sadness from comparison and online bullying. The screen went black, and she looked up, feeling a sudden, strong sense of her own worth that had nothing to do with social media likes. Then the scene changed to a battlefield, a place of dirt, smoke, and the sharp smell of gunpowder. But as I watched, silence fell over the fighting lines. Men on both sides lowered their guns, looking at the sky, confused by a sudden powerful feeling of being brothers that made the idea of killing impossible. For a brief time, the weapons stopped working. Soldiers looked at each other across the empty space, not as enemies, but as fellow humans. I saw a general in a command tent looking at a map, unable to give the order to attack because the words would not form in his mouth. Peace is not a contract signed by men, Jesus said, watching them. It is a presence that I give. The hospital and the battlefield disappeared, and I found myself standing on a city street at night. It was totally dark, the streetlights blinking. Then suddenly the sky ripped open. The third event, Jesus said, looking up, will break the night. On January 22nd, the sun will shine at midnight. I gasped as the sky above us turned a brilliant, purely white light. It wasn't the sun, but a holy, bright light that made the physical world clear. For exactly 22 minutes, the night became brighter than the middle of the day. I saw people running out of their homes, looking up. The light was comfortable to look at, but it showed what was truly hidden in their hearts. I saw a thief breaking into a car stop what he was doing, his tools falling as the light exposed him, not just to others, but to himself. I heard secrets being whispered and immediately heard clearly. I saw pilots flying over the dark Atlantic suddenly see their cockpits bathed in light. They checked their tools in a panic, only to realize the light was coming from everywhere at once. I saw astronomers at a remote mountain telescope staring at their screens in confusion as their sensors stopped working, overwhelmed by energy they couldn't measure. Outside the domes, the mountain peaks shone like silver. I saw a huge rock concert where the stage lights suddenly looked weak and yellow compared to the pure white brightness coming from the open sky. The band stopped playing, the crowd stopped cheering, and 50,000 people stood in total silence, looking up. I saw animals that only come out at night, owls, wolves, leopards, freezing in their tracks, looking upward with a calm respect. I saw a massive traffic jam in Los Angeles where the red taillights were overpowered by the brightness. Drivers got out of their cars, their road anger gone, standing on the highway staring at a sky that should have been black. This is the night of noon, he announced. It is a sign that no darkness can hide from me. During these minutes, many people will see the spiritual fight happening around them and will run toward the light. I saw children in this light, pointing at things their parents couldn't see. They were happy, pointing at the rooftops where big, shining shapes, angels, stood watching. The children were not afraid, they were excited. I saw a little girl pulling her father's shirt, saying, "Look, Daddy, the shining men are back." I saw two men in an alley about to fight who looked at each other in this strange light and saw how fragile the other person's life was. They dropped their fists, unable to hurt what the light had made sacred. The light disappeared, and the scene changed to something much darker. We were looking at a map of the world, covered with red dots. The fourth event begins on January 27th, Jesus said, his voice filled with a strong, powerful anger that made the ground shake. I will open the cages. I watched as police and normal people were supernaturally guided to hidden places, cellars, big steel boxes, storage buildings, where people were being held against their will and sold. It was like an unseen force guided the rescuers right to the lost victims. I saw a police officer in Europe stop his car for no clear reason, walk into an empty factory and find a false wall. Behind it were 30 children. I saw chains breaking and prisoners being led out into the sunlight. I saw a shipping port at night where certain steel containers began to shine with a soft, steady light. The workers, scared and confused, cut the locks, revealing people packed inside who had been brought across oceans. I saw a fancy party in a rich house where a waiter dropped his tray and walked straight to a locked bookshelf, pulling it open to show a hidden staircase leading to a secret basement. The guests gasped as the secrets of the host were instantly revealed. I saw a factory in Southeast Asia where the doors suddenly flew open, and the guards, overcome by a sudden fear of God, ran into the woods, leaving the workers free to walk out. I saw a house in a clean American suburb where a neighbor suddenly felt forced to call the police because they felt a darkness coming from the basement. I saw a young woman walking down a street who suddenly stopped, turned, and walked into a building she had never entered, finding a child who had been missing for weeks. The cries of the captured have reached my ears, he told me. I will show the hidden business of selling human beings. Those who make money from this evil will have no place to hide, weeks, because even the buildings will point them out. He then showed me the world's money centers. I saw computer screens turning bright red. I saw rich men in tall offices desperately trying to move money, but the transfers were stuck. I saw documents appear on public websites that showed the proof of corruption going back decades. It was not a computer hack. It was a revelation of truth. I saw a safe in a politician's office open by itself, its contents falling out for his staff to find. I saw a judge sitting on his bench about to give a dishonest ruling when his voice failed him, and he instead confessed his own bribe-taking to a shocked courtroom. Money will not save them, Jesus said. The only thing that will matter in his coming kingdom is truth, and those who have no truth will lose everything. The final vision was the most powerful. We stood over a stadium full of people praying. The fifth event, Jesus said, will close the month on January 31st. It is the rain of fire. I watched as shapes that looked like tongues of fire fell from the sky. It was not fire that burns things. Nothing was hurt. But when it touched people, they fell to the ground crying and praising God. Cameras were filming it. Real visible columns of light resting on groups of people praying in fields, in churches, and in homes. I saw a news anchor trying to report on it, but as the fire fell on the studio, she stopped reading the script and began to pray live on air, her makeup running with tears. This is the anointing of power, Jesus said. I am preparing my army for the final days. This fire will not be hidden. Everyone will see this happen all over the earth. I saw this fire touching people I wouldn't expect. I saw it fall on a prison yard, and tough prisoners fell to their knees, their tattoos shining with the glow, their hearts breaking with a desire to change. I saw it fall on a government assembly, stopping the arguments as politicians looked at each other, suddenly aware of a power higher than their own. I saw a family eating dinner when the fire came down on their table. The food was forgotten as parents and children held hands, shining with a peace that was not normal. I saw a university classroom where a professor was making fun of religion. Suddenly, the fire fell on the students in the back row. They stood up, not angry, but full of love. As they spoke, the feeling in the room changed. The professor went silent, holding his desk as the presence of God filled the room. I saw a hospital wing where the fire brought not just change of heart, but healing. Patients got out of their beds, pulling out their IVs, as the holy fire burned away sickness along with sin. I saw a lonely woman in a tall apartment building thinking about taking her own life when the fire filled her living room, wrapping her in a warmth that told her she was known and loved. I saw a small tribe in the Amazon looking up through the trees as small sparks of this holy fire drifted down like snow, understanding instantly that the Great Spirit they sought had arrived. I saw the fire connecting all these groups of believers like a light network wrapping around the world, beating with one heart. As the fire glowed, Jesus turned to me one last time. Marcus, the plans you draw are for buildings that will fall down. I am giving you a plan for forever. Go back. Tell them the builder is coming to inspect the work. Then I felt a heavy shock, like falling from a great height. I opened my eyes to the bright lights of the emergency room. My wife, Elena, was screaming my name, holding my shoulders. The doctors were staring at the monitor, shocked that a flat line had suddenly jumped to a perfect, steady beat. The pain came back right away, a deep ache in my chest and a burning feeling in my arms and legs as my nerves woke up. They say I was dead for 8 minutes. My brother Lucas, who is a doctor, has been sitting by my bed, looking at my medical charts again and again. It's impossible, Marcus, he keeps saying, holding his head. The electrical damage, you shouldn't be here. Your heart stopped for too long, your brain should be damaged. There should be some normal explanation. But I know why I am here. I have a blueprint to deliver. Elena is scared. She sees the big change in my eyes. She knows the man who built skyscrapers is gone, replaced by a man who has seen the foundation of the universe. She keeps asking me what happened, but when I start to tell her, she just cries, overwhelmed by how intense I am. And there is proof. When I woke up, my right palm, the one that touched the steel, did not have a burn mark. Instead, there is a thin white scar shaped exactly like a dove. It was not there before. The doctors cannot explain why the electricity left a perfect symbol instead of severely burning my hand. This scar is my reminder. It is the proof that this was not just a dream when my brain was dying. Every time I close my hand, I feel the tightness of that scar, and I am back in the silver field hearing his voice. Jesus gave me dates. He gave me warnings. January 2026 is coming. Just as Omri Bernstein said everything would change in January 2026, I'm saying the same thing right now. I'm truly scared. This can't be a coincidence. I do not care if people think I am crazy or if I lose my good name as an architect. I have seen the architect of life, and his deadline is close. If you are reading this, do not ignore these dates. Watch the waters. Watch the skies. The time for only building your own life is over. The moment I woke up, I knew my life was no longer my own. Please take this seriously. Thank you for reading this to the end. If this warning spoke to your spirit, tell us in the comments where you are from so we can pray with you. Please subscribe and turn on notifications because I will share more when I am allowed. And please share this with 3 people you love. You might be the messenger they need right now. May the builder of all things keep you safe.